Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Sniper Elite 4. Today we'll be talking about the pistols in the game and the real life stories behind them. I've already done videos of this kind on both the rifles and the secondaries, so if you haven't already, go and watch those. Also, I'm going to plug my Discord server in this video. It's an excellent Sniper Elite community and really welcoming, so go join it or I'll send SAS teams to your house so they can batter you. So without further ado, let's get into this. The Colt Model 1911 is absolutely, without question, the most successful pistol of all time. Considering that self-loading pistols were few and far between in 1911, and those that did exist look quite alien-like today, the 1911 really changed the game. I feel very few weapons really changed the face of the firearms industry quite like the 1911 did, with only the AK-47 and Colt Single Action Army influencing such a massive change in recent firearm development. The 1911 was a self-loading pistol that fired the powerful 45 ACP cartridge, which at the time was the most powerful cartridge ever put into a self-loading pistol. It utilised a single stack 7-round magazine, which sounds quite low today, but was actually slightly above par from the time, being an improvement over the more dominant revolvers. The single stack magazine also allowed for concealed carry, which has assured its longevity in the private market. The 1911 was the first truly successful semi-auto pistol design, and it was the basis for the Browning High Power, which the SAS still use today, and also Canadian arms firm Para Ordnance, a company that has stayed in good business since 1985 by manufacturing variations on the 1911. The Welrod was a silenced bolt-action pistol developed by the British government in 1942 for use in stealth operations. The weapon could fire either 9x19mm Luger rounds or 32 ACP rounds, with 9mm rounds using a 6-round magazine and the 32 rounds using an 8-round magazine. The weapon was bolt action because of the simplicity and reliability, but also, like the Delisle carbine, it was also so the operator could choose not to make unnecessary noise by cycling the bolt, which, on a self-loading pistol, was done automatically. The weapon was supposedly reliable at up to 27 meters, but realistically you'd want to be using this thing at around 5 if you actually wanted to kill your target. The weapon only made 122 decibels of sound, which is quiet enough to be indistinguishable at 15 feet in an open, quiet area. The name Welrod comes from Welwyn, the place where the Welrod was designed. The rod part of the name was code, designed to stop the Germans thinking it was a gun if they ever caught wind of the operations. Other Welwyn products include the Welgun submachine gun, Welbike paratrooper bicycle, and the Wellman miniature submarine. Welrods were used by the SOE, resistance members, agents under Operation Gladio, US Special Forces soldiers in Cold War Berlin, and the SAS during the Troubles and the Falklands War. The Beretta Model 1934 has its roots in the Beretta Model 1915, Beretta's first ever pistol. The weapon was basic but reliable and functional, and chambered in 32 or 38 ACP. The M1915 paved the way for the M1915-19, also known as the M1922, which was a revised version with improved ejection port and safety. The Model 1923 was chambered for 9mm Glisenti, but believe it or not, lots of people tried using the physically identical but much more powerful 9mm Luger round, which was rugged, simple and effective, and was used widely by the Italians during World War II. The weapon was chambered for 9mm Corto, also known as 380 ACP, which is a 9x17mm pistol cartridge which was widely used before the widespread adoption of the 9x19mm Luger cartridge in the West. The cartridge was beneficial because it could be fired efficiently without a locking system, drastically lowering production costs. Other weapons available in this cartridge are the Remington Model 51, Glock 42, Ingram Mach 11 and Scorpion. The Webley Mark 6 revolver was a British double-action revolver that first entered production in 1913 and served with the British Army as a standard-issue sidearm until World War II. The Webley used the powerful 445 Webley cartridge, but the low muzzle velocity of the round meant that the recoil was very manageable. During World War I, a short bayonet was made for the gun, and whilst it was never officially adopted, it was still rather popular. The Webley was also very reliable and was produced until 1921, when the long line of Webley revolvers ceased production, to be replaced by the Enfield No. 2. The Luger P08 was a famous German pistol which, despite not being the standard issue sidearm of the Wehrmacht, is nonetheless seen all the time in popular culture as the quintessential bad guy's pistol. The weapon was an improvement over the Luger M1900 but lacked the grip safety of the weapon that was later used on the Uzi, among others. The Luger was extremely accurate thanks to its fixed barrel and was also incredibly well made. However, it did not tolerate the mud of World War I and was often susceptible to jams and malfunctions. The weapon was historically significant in the firearms world, as it was the weapon that popularised the 9x19mm Luger cartridge, which after the war was renamed the 9x19 Parabellum round, and then became the standard NATO pistol cartridge. The Walther P38 was a German pistol first introduced in 1938 as a replacement to the Luger. It was the first double-action pistol to have a locked breech, and as a result it could be carried with a full magazine and chambered round whilst maintaining a high standard of safety. The weapon was issued across all German armed forces and was designated the Army Pistol 38 or AP38 for short. The P38 is unique in that the external barrel moves with the slide of the weapon, and ejected cases are thrown to the left, unlike most sidearms, which eject them to the right. After the war, the German army used P1s, which were P38s made from aluminium to reduce weight. The P4 variant of the pistol was also made in the 70s to be used as a sidearm for the police forces of South Africa. The high standard HDM was a variation of the earlier HD target pistol. The HDM used an integral silencer, which reduced noise by 20 decibels. The weapon used a 22 long rifle cartridge, which is regarded as rather useless by most people, and for good reason, but there are some upsides to the 22 long rifle, most notably of which is that it usually gets stuck inside the target, rather than creating a clean wound, which does exponentially more damage than other higher power pistol cartridges that will just go in one side and out the other. The HDM was developed in 1944, which makes its presence in Sniper Elite anachronistic, and it saw use in World War II and is still in use today with the CIA, USMC and other special forces. The Mauser C96 is one of the most famous and distinctive pistols in the world. Originally produced in 1896, the Mauser was unique because of its integral box magazine that was placed in front of the trigger, and because of the distinctive grip, which earned it the nickname Broom Handle. The weapon used the 7.63x25mm Mauser cartridge, which gave the Mauser excellent velocity and penetration, as the 7.63mm was the highest velocity pistol cartridge available until the .357 Magnum came out. The Mauser M712, which was seen in game, was an automatic modification made by a Spanish firm in 1927. The weapon was select fire with a detachable box magazine and a capacity of 10 or 20 rounds depending on your choice. The weapon was also available with a detachable stock and barrel to turn it into a submachine gun of sorts. The Walther PP was an innovative double-action pistol first produced in 1929. The pistol used a blowback mechanism and had novel new features such as a chamber indicator and automatic hammer block. The PP was issued by the German army to officers, tank crews and Luftwaffe pilots, as well as being used by officers of the Ordnungspolizei. The PPK, which stands for Police Pistol Criminal, was effectively the same gun but smaller, making it more suitable for undercover work, with a total length of 154mm instead of the slightly less diminutive 160mm. Several variants of the PP series exist, including the PPKS, which is approximately 30 to 40 grams heavier to comply to American gun laws. The PPKL is a lightweight version made from an aluminium alloy. The PP Super was chambered for the 9x18mm Ultra cartridge, which was a German pistol cartridge originally made by the Luftwaffe, but never really used until the 70s when Walther made the PP Super. The cartridge was unsuccessful, but it did provide the basis for the 9x18mm Makarov cartridge, which the Russians used throughout the Cold War and beyond. The British Army actually purchased some PPs under the designation of L66A1. It was chambered for .22 long rifle for use by the members of the Ulster Defence Regiment. The pistols were intended to be for self-defence against the IRA when off duty, and were coated in a black gum paint called Sunkerite, which is so obscure it doesn't even have its own Wikipedia page. The paint was later found to be incredibly toxic, which is why we don't use it anymore. The PPK has been owned or used by many famous figures, including Adolf Hitler, James Bond, Austin Powers, Sterling Archer, Johnny English and Elvis Presley, who later bought another one, plated it in gold and gave it to his mate Jack Lord, who played Felix Leiter in Dr. No. Although no longer used in military service, the PPK is still popular among the civilian market and is manufactured by Walther to this day. The Tokarev TT33 was a Soviet pistol designed in 1930 by Fyodor Tokarev, who also designed the SVT. The TT33 was designed as the replacement to the Nagant Model 1895, and because the Soviets weren't stupid, their new semi-auto was based on the 1911. The weapon had a modular hammer and lockwork mechanism and was also much smaller than the 1911. It was reliable and successful, but was soon replaced by the TT33 as seen in game. The TT33 featured easily removable lockwork and hammer, designed for easy maintenance in the field. The TT33 used the 7.62x25mm Tokarev round, which was based on the 7.62mm Mauser cartridge we talked about earlier. The cartridge was very heavy, and whilst this made the weapon powerful, the magazine on the TT33 often just fell out of the gun, and if an average person kept stubbing their toe on a table, they'd move the table. However, the Soviets decided to cut off their toes to stop this, and adopted the 9x18mm Makarov to stop this issue from happening again. The TT33 was almost replaced by the Stechkin, but the gun was awful, so they replaced it in the 50s with the Makarov instead. Designed by the people behind the Mauser Nagant, the M1895 revolver was rather unusual. The weapon was gas sealed, containing propellant gases to achieve better muzzle velocity, which also had the side effect of making the gun work with silencers, a trait not often seen with revolvers. The M1895 used 7.62x38mm rounds, which were designed for the gun and never used in anything else, bar a prototype submachine gun based on the Fedorov Avtomat, which was made by Fyodor Tokarev of TT33 fame. The 7.62 Nagant was a huge cartridge, far eclipsing any other revolver cartridges of the day, and roughly comparable in size to one of the rounds fired by the Sturmgewehr. The M1895 was famously reliable, with one officer saying, "If anything went wrong with the M1895, you could fix it with a hammer." The weapon often had their barrels cut down for concealed carry by Soviet agents during the Cold War. Thank you everyone for watching the video. Remember to like, subscribe and comment. It costs you nothing and it's a great way to help out the channel. Stay safe and goodbye.